I've used this before, so I don't know. I use it for Skype meetings with family on the holidays.
Okay, yeah.
But I've never used it. It's like a... You have a couple of pieces of paper to do one side. This is like when you go on vacation and you prop up the camera on a rock. Some of my favorite pictures have done that way. Why can't we present? I mean, she has a cable from her desktop to that. Maybe didn't have an HDMI. Ooh, I wonder if I have an HDMI adapter.
Until you do it? Michelle, I know you won't have PGA experiences. You have to come to Apple, have to have a special. That's not on you. A regular doctor will not work on PGA.
I do have an HDMI to VGA.
So do I. I'm not sure it'll work. It's not the right one for Apple.
Yeah, it's got an average.
Yes, I'm fine, yes, it's good. It's good to be able to see it, but I'm fine.
One thing I want.
We'll be all right here. We can't broadcast it. It's not her fault. To go to Apple to an old monitor or an older thing, VGA, you have to have a special clearance. Doyle's going to get audio, and then we'll take Michelle's presentation, and we'll sync that and we'll put it out. Whoever asked that. Was it you, Lisa?
No, I did.
Oh, yes. And I'm staring at Lisa. Lisa's like, why are you staring? Because you look so lovely this morning.
Easy, Nick. Easy, Nick. Okay, Michelle, whenever you're
All right.
ready, please.
Good morning. I just wanted to thank you for inviting me to your board meeting this morning, and I apologize about the little bit of snafu technical difficulty that we are experiencing, but I think we've made it through it. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Michelle Bailey, and I'm an interior designer based here in Alpena, Michigan. I have lived in Michigan for about 4 years now. Just fallen in love with the area. I love all the outdoor activities, and just the community has just been amazing to get to know. And so this morning I'm going to first start out with a presentation that tells a little bit about me personally, and then we'll get into some of my past projects, just a few of them. I've also included just a couple that I have also executed since I have moved here to the Alpena area that are actually located in the Alpena area, not out of state. So I will get this going. I'm not sure that I can juggle both of these things. So
You can strap that mic on.
I have,
You want a table to set that on?
that would be great, but let's just keep going here. And so anyway, this is myself. Hello. This is a photo that my daughter had taken of me. And my daughter is a professional photographer, so you'll be able to tell what photos she's taken of my projects and which ones I have taken. I am not a photographer. This is my life motto. It's something that on a regular basis every day I am repeating to myself, and is so true. It's a value that I have in both my personal life as well as my business. This is my husband, Chris. Chris is just the love of my life. We are high school sweethearts, and he manages several Federal Express stations and operations in Alpena, Gaylord, Kinchlow, and Pelston. And the Kinchlow, sometimes I haven't been there yet. He keeps asking me to please come up and see the area up there, and I just haven't made it. So he's got quite a territory that he oversees. He's often traveling, but we enjoy to do a lot of things. When he is home, we do a lot of kayaking and hiking and just love to be outside. We have been married for 30 years now. This is my son Noah. He's 13 and much larger than I am already, so it's all of a sudden become very, very interesting as I am looking up at him and asking him, did you brush your teeth? You know, those kind of things, but he is just an amazing guy. These are just a few photos. He's involved, he's very active, and he is extremely into sports. This is him doing a scuba diving dance. This was quite an accomplishment. At 10, he was one of the youngest certified scuba divers in the country. So we just really are excited about that. He was celebrating because the certification was very grueling for him, and it was no different for him than it was for an adult. And he had to work very hard for several months in order to obtain this. This is him underwater. It's his favorite place to be. One of his favorite places to be. This is, I take too long grocery shopping and I never know what he's going to be doing. I will allow him at 13 years now to peruse the store on his own with, you know, we'll meet up. And I never know. This is him. He got bored waiting for me grocery shopping, and that's how I found him, waiting for me. I don't know how long he had been like that. This is, we do a lot of family activities. The photo of me is one that he took of me because we were playing laser tag, and any game that we play as a family, it is on. There is no safety at all just because you're a family member. So he wanted to take a picture because I kept giving him ugly faces. This is my mom, Pauline Grendel, and she's actually with us today. She's in the back there and she flew in from South Florida. She lives in South Florida, so she flew in for the holidays, and I'm just privileged to have her here with us this morning. She owns and operates a lawn service company, and she's just wonderful, a beautiful lady. This is just a photo of some of the things that you could expect to see around my house, called shenanigans, because they're constant. My son Noah had a project for school, and so my mom and I had to dress up as Indians so that he could videotape certain segments of his project. So you never know what you're going to get into around our house, but it's usually fun. This is my daughter Heather. Heather is 29 years old, and she is married. This is her husband Matt, who we adore. My other two grandsons, Tyler and Mason. Mason has a big love affair with fishing and meat. So every year, and this year is no exception, he is asking for meats as his top priority for Christmas. So it makes it interesting finding different meats to send to him. This is the crew, this is our beach. So we spend our summers this way, just hanging out. My daughter and her husband Matt have a food truck, and they are just opening a ghost kitchen in about a month now. And they serve gourmet food off of their truck. So this is what you could expect to come off of a food truck, which is kind of interesting. They have won #1 food truck in Ohio, which was an accomplishment for them. We have 3 Mastiffs. I have a love of dogs. Anytime I can be with a dog, I am just thrilled. So this is Cleo. She's 2.5 years old. AKA, we do call her the queen because she definitely is the queen. And then we have Romeo, the love of my life. He's called Snuggle Snorts. Anytime that you start to love on him, which he absolutely adores, he's going to start snorting and making these amazing sounds that you just can't get in there far enough. We decided a few years ago that we would like to have 1 litter of pups. I've never had a litter of pups, and so we carefully planned it with our 2 Mastiffs, and it was Mastiff madness for sure. It was a great experience, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for us. It was interesting though, because one of the goals that I had was I wanted to correlate the work of having puppies to the work of having an infant and starting a family in Noah's mind, and that definitely was successful. So it was a fun experience, family experience. This is Moomba. We kept only 1 of our puppies. He's 6 months old, so I now have 3 Mastiffs. My husband is begging me for a 4th, but I feel at this point 3 is about, you know, I need to be able to move about in the house, and it's like having 3 lions roaming about. So I don't know, we might be at max capacity. This is the home that we bought. It was interesting. My husband and I had gotten to a place in our careers where we weren't spending time together as a family. His work schedule, my work schedule, we were like just passing each other, and just feeling guilty and not enjoying things. So we decided that we were going to make a huge leap. We had actually started to liquidate assets to move to Panama, and as we really got in depth in some of the understanding of living in Panama, we realized that we did not want to raise Noah there. If we hadn't had Noah, it would have been a different story, but because we were raising Noah, we felt like that all of a sudden was not going to be an option for us. And in the meantime, my husband's superior called, and this opportunity opened up in northern Michigan, and so I prayed. I told God, I said, okay, if you want us to move here, we have 30 days to see the area, see if we even want it, would want to live there, and we need to find a house and close on it. And that's exactly what happened. And this is some of the views from inside the house, as well as this one I believe was out on our deck. You can see someone, I think it's my husband, is fishing there. And so it's just a wonderful lifestyle. We're just so blessed to be here. I grew up in Stowe, Ohio. This is an early family photo. Always having a dog, of course. And my parents, I was very blessed in my childhood. I really was. You know, it was during the days that you could roam free. I think I had a 3-mile radius, roller skates, bikes, woods, kids, swimming holes, you know, the whole thing. And so I really was very privileged growing up, and the way that my parents raised me. I have been playing piano since I was 4 years old and began lessons at 4, and went on to win awards in national piano guilds. And I won a full scholarship to Akron University for music composition and piano performance. And while I was at the university, I also was taking art, design, and architecture classes. I want to skip that one. And I met a gentleman, a professor, that kind of took me under his wing. For some reason, he just took a shine to me, and I'm not sure exactly why. But he would make his way after a lecture or what have you to come over and talk to me, and he ended up hiring me to freelance as an his in-house interior designer on a few projects. So I cut my teeth. My first project was a project with the Akron Zoo, and it was called Legends of the Wild. And so it was a big learning curve. I thought that I knew so much, but it was a big learning curve learning about animal exhibits and what kind of materials would not only stand the test of time with animal enclosures, but also the hosing and the maintenance of it, and then what kind of materials would actually keep the animals safe from the people. And it was interesting because when I first went into the project, I was more concerned with keeping the people safe from the animals, but what I realized through the project that it was absolutely the opposite. It was keeping the animals safe from the people. So this is the garden that I left in Ohio. It was probably the #1 thing that was the hardest thing for me to leave. So gardening is a big thing in my life. Once I started getting into design and freelancing for by that time, a few different architects, builders were also calling me, and they were having me take their standard houses to the next level for Parade of Homes, where thousands and thousands of people would come in. Most of the homes were multi-million-dollar homes, and so in order to build a house, the builder would have to commit to, depending on the development, it might be a $3 million project per home, or it might be, it just depended on the development, and they would set the bar at exactly what that dollar amount was that the builders had to reach that threshold. And so they hired me to come in and take their standard homes and take them to a level where they looked completely custom. And I worked very closely with their construction crews. I was on site a lot, and so those were the early days. And from there, I had thousands and thousands of people were coming through. And so the exposure that I had was tremendous. And so my clients actually would, at this time now I was freelancing on my own, for my own company, and they would hire me for their businesses, and then oftentimes I would end up doing their residences. Or I would have a client that would hire me for their residence, and I would end up doing their business. So one of the things in my business is it's very personal for me, and it's all about relationship. And so for my clients, it's very typical for them to use me for decades. If they move, if they decide to open up another location for a business, what have you, they'll call me. And so oftentimes I might not hear from a client after a project for, who knows, several years. And then out of the blue, I will get a call and be able to get right back in there and help them with whatever project they need. There have been a number of theater rooms, very specialized areas and equipment. Also, the golf simulation, which is something that I'm kind of interested, potentially seeing if we might be able to work something like that into here at Lost Lake Woods. I think that would be fun. My clients are diverse people. I have worked with all walks of life, and many of them, like for instance, this is a 3rd level basketball court. So it's 3 sub-levels down, and that was a really interesting project. This is a lingerie closet. It's very customized. It's a smaller scale than some of the other photos that I'm showing you, but just to kind of give you an overview of some of the work that I've done. This is a log home, and it's beautiful. It is not the largest log home that I have worked on. I actually got to design one of the largest log homes in the world, which was just over 25,000 square feet. So that was an interesting project. And unfortunately, I can't, there are some projects that I have non-disclosures. And so once a client has expressed to me that they would like their projects to stay private for whatever reason, and there are multiple reasons why that would occur, then I definitely am very careful, and I honor that. It's very important to me that their safety and other things are taken into account. Now I'm getting into a few projects that I have actually accomplished here in the Alpena area, just a few of them. This is some before pictures I have to tell you, I was really intimidated by this when I walked in. I got a call from Christy Schultze, and she said, I'm gonna drop off the keys to you, go look at this place, I bought it, I got a good deal on it, I don't know what the heck we're gonna do, it smells like cigar smoke, and it is awful. And so I walked in, and I just kind of was a little bit in awe. Some of the areas, I can't tell you the smell that was, I think it was more I was overwhelmed by the smell than anything. So this is what we ended up turning into the conference room, which I'm going to show you some after pictures. This is what the building looks like today. And we completely reconfigured the space planning and the space management on the inside. So there were walls being moved and spaces dedicated to new function, and they are very happy with it. This is the conference room here that you see. I'll just put my mouse over it. Some of the materials that you're seeing are very standard materials, but they are used in unusual ways. This helps value engineering and keeping our budgets down. What that does is it usually opens up a small budget, a small window that I can utilize for very small custom accent pieces that maintain our budget but give us a big bang for that buck. So this is Leroy. He was a big hit on the entire CPA site every day. I looked forward to seeing Leroy as much as I looked forward to seeing the contractors. This is a private residence here in the Alpena area, just one of them. This is a before picture. Another before. These are all befores. This one here is after. This is an after. This is a before. This is an after, and this is a during. I'm trying to be better about taking pictures often. I'm too busy. I just don't want to take the time to take pictures, so I am trying to be better about that. This is an after. This is a before of the dining room. When I meet with a client and when I'm working on a project, whether it's commercial or residential, I really try to get to know what the current function of the space is, and in 20 years, how that space could function the best for that particular client or organization. And so as I spoke with this particular private client, they expressed to me that they never use the dining room, maybe once a year. In my mind, I'm thinking cha-ching, cha-ching. They're paying a mortgage for every square foot of that space, but they're only using it maybe once a year. I just, in my mind, that does not make any sense. And so what I really like to do is utilize every square inch that we possibly can to utilize on a regular basis. So what I proposed to them was that we would move forward and we would turn it into a library/office, because I realized that these particular clients were sitting at their kitchen island and utilizing their island for their business and their personal finances, etc., and they needed a space. They needed a space, and all of that paperwork I hated seeing all over the counters. So I said, let's turn this into a library/office, and this is an after of what we have today. Functions really well for them, and it looks amazing when you walk in the front door. There's a lot of hidden storage in it so that they can have their messy piles hidden if they want to, or they can organize it. This is a before of the kitchen, another before of the kitchen. Pretty standard. This is an after of that same kitchen. Another after. This is a during. Another after. Another after, and then a before with this bedroom. This is an after of the bedroom. So one of the projects that you may be more familiar with is Branham's Jewelry in East Tawas. And so this is a kind of, when I came on board, they had already started some of the demolition and some of the execution to the outside of the building. But there were a lot of questions, what directions, what materials, etc. And so I was very privileged to work with Ken and his sister Joyce on this project. They were amazing. My clients are amazing people. Just, I really am very blessed and privileged to work with every one of them. This is a jewelry store sign that was originally installed for their original location, and so we wanted to utilize that in the final design of the interior of the store. This is what it looked like my first day. This was day one, boots on the ground. And so right now we're kind of having an overview. Right here is where the front entry is here, and it was just this wide open area that we needed to design into spaces that not only serve them immediately, but in my mind, good design actually attracts business. And so in my mind, I wanted the space that we created to serve them well into 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And so we worked hard together to develop that. This is some framing that's starting to happen here. The other aspect of a lot of my projects is that I get into custom creations. So I wanted these, some sort of chandeliers, and I wanted them to be roughly 15 feet by about 8 feet wide. Well, when I started to source this, we were looking into upwards of $100,000 per chandelier. And no matter how I cut it, then I started thinking, well, what if we did 4 smaller chandeliers? I was still like, I couldn't even approach my client with a number. I thought, no, this will never fly, we've got to do something. So I designed chandeliers instead. And so I actually used standard pendants, and then we hung branches so that we created the space that I needed and the size that I needed and the depth that I needed, but we were able to do it on a very amazing budget. Again, this is using standard materials or materials that are not costly. In some instances, they're even free. It's a matter of going into the woods and being able to utilize these materials in a way that when the project is complete, it looks like a $100,000 chandelier. So, and there were several of them. So this is all during the project here. This is after. This is the first day I was driving up. My husband drove me up to see it, and I was so excited. I think he was afraid that I wasn't going to drive it correctly because I couldn't wait to see it. So at any rate, you can see we're getting ready for the grand opening here. And this is the finished completion. This space is interesting, and it's something to consider even here for Lost Lake Woods Club. This particular seating area is off to one side of the showroom in a quiet location, but it also has a coffee bar that's there. It's got a beverage fridge so that there's juice boxes for little kids, waters, that sort of thing, and it's got excellent Wi-Fi. So one of the things that I'm always interested in commercial spaces is getting your, in this situation it would be a client, in your situation it would be a guest, to actually come into the space and relax. And the more that they will engage on social media while they're having a wonderful positive experience in your location, the better, because you're probably going to get a lot of free word-of-mouth referrals and interesting positive information that is broadcasting over social media about your establishment. All right, so now we're getting into, this is a before of guest room 108. So you can see that.
I'm gonna ask you to either move this table a little this way.
Sure.
Or is it because On this side, we can't see the,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Can everybody see? I apologize.
does she have to see the screen though?
I don't.
No, she's got it on her computer.
No problem, no problem. Is this good for everybody? Yeah, okay. So this is a before of guest room 108. This is my rendering of the same perspective of guest room 108. Just going to move through here. Here's another perspective. These are some other additional before afters. You'll have to forgive me. My jacket is on the bed here. My little ladder is here because I spent a lot of time that day carefully measuring that room and just getting a feel for exactly what we were going to be dealing with in terms of the electrical as well and the plumbing. Here's another before, of course.
Pull you forward just about a foot so you can be on the screen for the video.
Oh, okay, very good.
Oh, I see.
Here is an after rendering. Another after rendering.
I'm a little disappointed. I thought you could use those same bedspreads again.
Easy.
Well, you know, we have to keep warm when you're out ice fishing. So my suggestion is take them outside and feed them to the fire. Now, in this particular rendering, you can see I've been able to use the Lost Lake Woods logo on this pillow as well as a little bit of the detail on the curtain as well. And we're going to talk more about that. Here is the bathroom. This is a rendering of what I would like. I would like to project it to move forward. This is the shower. Oh, something has occurred here. All right, I think I'm starting over again. So I do have something else to show you. Please bear with me just one moment.
And where does your daughter and son-in-law live?
My daughter and son-in-law live in, I'm sorry, are you the one that asked
Yes.
the question? Yeah. My daughter and son-in-law, they live in Ohio.
Okay.
But they had moved to Tennessee. The interesting thing, they had moved down to Tennessee where he was working for a caterer. He's a chef and taking classes and some things like that. And then they moved to, well, I'm sorry, we decided that we were moving up to here, had bought the house, and then they relocated back into the same Ohio area. So she's very bitter about that. She gives me heck every time I talk to her, pretty much, why can't you just be here?
I'm just saying that that food that's coming out of that truck looks amazing.
It is.
Can you drive that truck up here?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Going on truck every week.
Yes. Well, and I will say they are opening a ghost kitchen, which is really interesting. It's a kitchen, and they have takeout, but then they can also have their clients, because they have this huge following. They can come in, and they can't technically eat there, but they'll pick their food up there. So it's a step in the direction of their dream of owning several restaurants. And so I'm really proud of them. It's amazing. They've been really true to what they want to do, and I admire that, and I'm so thankful for that. They want to create gourmet food, and they want to do it in their way, and they're creating their own markets. It's pretty interesting. So here is a little video that I was able to produce for you, so that you can actually see, and you'll have to forgive me, sometimes when I'm programming, the swing of the camera will get, ooh, there was one right there, a little bit fast. But it gives you a really nice way to feel as if you were actually walking through the room and what you would see. The ceiling I have not executed yet, designed it yet. I really wanted to get this approved first, this concept approved, to move into the ceiling work. As far as some of my renderings too are easier when I'm not dealing with trying to render through a ceiling so that you can see things. So I'm ready to button up that ceiling now.
What's the product on the walls? Is that wood or is that?
It is, it's a
other than wood?
reclaimed wood, and it very inexpensive is the key. Very inexpensive.
Would you consider all the rooms to be of the same materials and texture, or would there be variation so they don't all look maybe the same?
Well, the one benefit of having them sort of follow suit to one another in their design style and the materials is buying materials in bulk. You get a much better price point than if you buy materials per room. So like for instance, if we were looking at flooring, if we bought enough flooring for one room, you're gonna pay X amount of dollars per square foot. But if we buy materials for all the rooms, that is gonna really significantly impact that price. So, you know, I think there's benefit in following suit. Some of the rooms though, I will say, we're gonna have to go through, and it's unfortunate, each room has issues. There's different issues to address. They're not all the same layout. The bathrooms are configured different. There's plumbing, like for instance, in this particular room on the opposite side, so now behind me, but the same scenario, I've built this faux beam, which yes, I like the architecture of that. But what I'm really, the reason that that's there is because there is a plumbing pipe that is down from the ceiling about roughly 3 inches. It's a 3-inch diameter pipe, and it runs the whole, well, we have to figure out how to cover that up. We can't remove it, it's functional. So we need to make it, not only cover it up, but make it look like it makes sense how we cover it. So each room has a multitude of its own situations that are, so we're gonna have to address each room individually instead of just being able to create this and say, okay, now we're going for this on the other rooms. Yes, the concept is there, the materials will probably likely, it would save us money to utilize the same materials, but we're gonna have to actually design each room as an individual because of the window placements, the door placements, the plumbing, the electrical, all of these things. So does that answer your question?
A little bit. I was just thinking of variation. If the whole lodge obviously looked the same, it could be a little stale. You know, if every staff member was in a blue suit, maybe I want the manager in a gray suit, you know.
Well, here's an idea to throw out at you, and again, this is all based on approvals. But one suggestion that I would have, and I think it's a good suggestion, is that perhaps this is a standard guest room. This is not a junior suite, this is not a suite. So my suggestion would be that the standard guest rooms all can flow with the same design concept. Now let's talk about junior suites because there's opportunities to create those. So the differences would be color schemes, some materials, etc. We could kind of take it up a notch.
Charge more.
Exactly. And then also in a junior suite, you would a standard junior suite. You're probably going to have, you know, some sort of microwave and a mini fridge type of kitchenette sort of situation. Then you move into the suites, and those would be particularly at least 2 rooms in addition to a bathroom. And then we can look at having those as a 3rd tier as far as the design style that those actually have. I think though, moving forward, what I'm trying to also do is set a theme or a design concept that yes, we'll be configuring, we'll be using different materials perhaps in junior suites and suites, but it's going to feel a certain way. How do you want your members and your guests to feel? That is a big consideration. It's one of the #1 considerations that I have as a designer. I am trying to create an experience that whoever stays or is in this room wants to repeat. So, this experience is so important in branding. So now what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about branding and,
Michelle, I have one question about your rendering here.
Yes.
Being realistic, I mean, these renderings are probably based, obviously, off of your investigation of the rooms and taking measurements. Is it realistic with our ceiling heights and stuff to actually have a ceiling fan, or is that just a carrot in front of us?
absolutely,
Okay.
and actually this rendering is to scale.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's exactly the ceiling heights, etc.
Great.
We have in guest room 108, we have an 8-foot ceiling, but then it drops, and forgive me, off the top of my head, I believe it's 7 foot 2 inches to the ceiling tiles as they exist now. If we have room to, once we remove those ceiling tiles, I'm not sure if we're gonna have room to bump that up or not, but I have projected all of this at that 7 foot 2 in the bathroom and the 8-foot elevation in the guest stateroom.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What are you proposing for the floor? It looks like a wood floor, but
Yes,
the foam wood or?
well, actually, what I would like to do is use an LTV plank, luxury vinyl tile plank. It's a forever product, something, well, I shouldn't say forever, heavy commercial use, and most of the guarantees and the warranties on it, are gonna be 20, 25 years of heavy, we're talking in malls, in hospitals, etc. And so, I think that the reality is, I don't know that Lost Lake Woods Club would actually have to touch it again, because it's not like you're gonna have thousands of people walking on it all the time or what have you. So, I'm thinking of the LVT vinyl plank for that. Let me just,
What is the sound deadening ability of that? I've noticed that since they put the wood floor in upstairs and certain things that happen up there, the sound is more noticeable, so I'm thinking second story as opposed to first story. Compared to
Okay.
carpet,
right.
flooring can be a lot noisier.
It
so-
can be a lot noisier. So this particular product that I projected for the floor here actually has a cork backing on it.
Okay.
So it does help with that quite substantially.
Just to clarify on that point, so I've been very specific with Michelle about the sleeping area needs to be covered. If you go back to the drawing now,
Yes, that's what I'm trying to
you'll
do. Let me
actually
just,
see that the wood planking is just from the door to the bathroom. Because we wanted to consider winter season, muddy boots
Yeah.
coming into the rooms and so on and so
Oh, there's
forth.
carpet around the bed. yeah.
Okay.
I don't see a
So
TV.
you can see you've got your curvature of the wood, but everything below the wood is going to be carpet.
Well, one of the things, somebody said they didn't see a TV. Well, you see where that fireplace is?
that is the
I got
TV.
That is, I was just gonna
That
say,
is the
you can
TV.
get TVs now that show fireplace, outside campfires, all that other kind of
That's
things.
Netflix.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
here's I'll get right back to you.
Yeah.
Here's the thought process that I have is right now, and I have been so privileged to stay in one of your rooms last night. So,
Stretching the truth
Does
there.
privilege mean the same thing to you as it does the rest of us?
right,
Part of the job hazards.
right. Well, it's been a really good experience for me. I mean, I have to say, I want to feel what it feels like as a guest, and see what they're dealing with and all of those things, so that we can problem solve moving forward and come up with really good sound solutions that are going to function for a long time. So at any rate, the difference is when I'm in that room, I think to myself, is this somewhere that I would want to bring my husband and disappear for a couple of days? Just close the door, order room service, and we're good. And, at this point I can say that's probably not going to be where I would choose to do that. But that's the kind of environment that I do want to create within budget, is a space that you're really excited to be able to go. So let's say that you have an anniversary. I would like, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, gosh, if you have these beautiful rooms, and even if you have a house right here, for your anniversary, get one of the rooms here. Disappear for a few days, order room service, you're set. So, I'm trying to look at these rooms from a number of different perspectives. So, I'm sorry, can I take your question,
So do
please?
wall coverings require any maintenance?
No, no maintenance at all.
So there's no painting, there's nothing, so when you think, when you look at 20 years in the future, like you said, you want to look at that, there would be nothing you'd have to do.
Right, right. Well, and actually, there is a distressing on them, but the way that they would be clear coated after they were done, you would be able to wash them, whatever, and no problem. Yeah, you're done. Absolutely.
Yeah, for a long time, I've always said when you say, hey, we're going to northern Michigan to a lodge, you know, you envision things and you get here and our rooms sadly aren't what people, this is what people think when they think northern Michigan lodge in a stateroom or somewhere you're gonna stay, so.
Absolutely.
My term has always been more lodgy, less stodgy. And this place is pretty stodgy, and it's I'm glad to see this. This is
Good.
kind of more what in line with this place should be.
Terrific.
The one comment I would make, and I'm sorry I'm always so practical, trained engineer.
Thank you.
You know, when I stay in the lodge, the one thing I don't feel like we have a place for is like your suitcase. You know, I come in with my roller bag, and there's not like a closet or something like that. I don't see that in these pictures.
Well, actually, they're right here, and this is something that we're still developing. Because my thought is, I'd like to have a wardrobe. I really would, for those kind of functions. Where this coat rack is, can you see this coat rack here on
Yes.
your projection? Okay, so we have an opportunity here that maybe instead of the coat rack, we could actually put a wardrobe that has is equipped to handle your suitcase and all of that. One of the things that we do have though is, let me just see if I can, excuse me for 1 second, please, nobody get seasick.
If the dressers are not frequently used, I guess would one option be to have a door to the dresser that has no shelf, but you just put your roller bag into?
You do, but you have to remember the depth between that piece of furniture and the bed. And so opening up doors in that location, perhaps sliding doors, I mean, it's something to consider. Right, so this is a cabinet, and I'm sorry, you know, that I don't have a better, I'm trying to, next to the shower here. It's an 18-inch cabinet, so we've got 18 inches. Your bag is definitely not gonna fit in there. But what I also want to house inside this closet is a, potentially, again, all based on approvals, would be, you know, the ironing board. There would be space for toiletries and that nature, personal toiletries and that nature that I like hidden behind the door so it's not out all over the countertop if they choose. I mean, it's however they want to live in that room when they're there. But they'll have options so that if they wanted to hunker down there for a few days, they really could and have a nice experience.
Can
But
you point out what you're talking to?
Yes, right here, right here. This is actually a cabinet.
It's hard to see your whole mouse
I
Need
would-
a pointer.
I would think is that a door that?
It is.
A roller bag would certainly fit, a carry-on roller bag would certainly fit on the lowest level, if it was the floor level, and that's.
It may or may not, but before I can commit to that, I want to be sure of it. I'm not going to make that particular statement because I'm not sure that it's completely accurate yet. But
We're
that's something to
concepts
think
right now,
about.
right?
Yes.
Conceptual, just
Right, right.
very interesting.
Yes, ma'am?
Do I assume that the flooring in the, I'm talking loud, the flooring in the bathroom is tile?
Yes, yes.
So a little comment is on our housekeeping staff. You have carpet, you have that vinyl, and then you have tile. And all three of those take 3 different ways to clean.
Okay.
So I would consider that. And I know with the concept of the carpet and the vinyl flooring, if you use a wet mop on there, you're gonna have, I'm sure you probably have a metal threshold or something, but water will get in that carpet. We don't have a huge housekeeping staff, so I think we have to make sure the way we design this is easiest for them to clean. And then you look, you have a table, I don't know if it's wood, and then you have the countertop is wood, and you have lamps where they are, and pictures. I just think from housekeeping standpoint, the easier we can make and keep the design, is something to consider.
Okay, absolutely.
By the way, the reason for the mic, guys, if you wait, is not so much for us in the room, it's for those folks listening in online.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and actually, forgive me, things got off to a rocky start with our just getting the technical. Would you be able to take one of these and just pass it, if you want one? Just pass that around, please. Okay, so I meant to do this, I have totally flubbed up here on this. I meant to do this at the very beginning, and I got sidetracked, so please forgive me. So what I want to talk about is, a little bit, is about the concept of branding and design. So right now, in this time and space, we're having an experience together. I'm trying to create, because I am trying to brand you to me. And so I'm just going to kind of walk you through this. So why, in the beginning here, when you first walked in, I've already been diffusing a scent. Has anyone been able to smell it? You guys smell the scent? It's very light. You don't even notice it, but your subconscious notices it. So I've got your smell. Then I had music through the majority of my presentation. So now I'm engaging the sense of hearing. Okay? Then we have all the visuals that I've been providing. So we have the sense, that visual. So now I've got 3 of your senses. Now I've given you a velvet bag. I have just engaged your touch, your sense of touch. Now, you were supposed to have these in your hands at the beginning of my presentation, so I digress. Then you have chocolate. I'm engaging, if you choose, I'm engaging your sense of taste. I have now hit all 5 of your senses as we are having this lovely experience together, this journey of what can be, okay? So I'm really actively branding right now. Plus you've seen my logo. My goal was to have the logo up, but I'm having a little bit of a, let me see if I can do it. Hang on just a second. I can do all things, right? Here we go. That's what I tell myself. Oh, that's not gonna do it. Hang on. I'm not giving up, guys.
Ironically, some of the trouble is because our equipment is outdated.
Oh, here we go, look at
Shocking.
that. You see now we've got it. Now, I wanna stand right here, and this is really how I would prefer to present to you. Because you're seeing me, but you're also seeing my brand, while I'm engaging all 5 of your senses, and hopefully giving you an experience that you would wanna repeat. So now let's think about this concept of branding and design. I designed this presentation a certain way to try to hit all 5 of your senses to the best of my ability during our time together. So in relation to design to Lost Lake Woods, we've been able to utilize, I'm not gonna get back to that one, I don't think, forgive me. The next time I'll have this system down better. But I've been able to, in the room, I've been able to use some of your logo. I don't know if any of you picked up on that. Did any of you pick up on that? Right, exactly. Strategically placed, not overdone. We don't want to stamp everything with Lost Lake Woods logo on it. Strategically placed in the right setting. When your guest comes in to that room, they're going to have this amazing experience. You're engaging all of these senses that you've got going on while they're seeing strategically placed your logo. So there's different things about good interior design work that is above and beyond how it visually looks. There's a whole thought process behind the colors that we use, and this is something to think about. When you have a guest or a potential member, everyone who walks in the club here is a potential member. Everyone. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they work here. Doesn't matter if they're delivering something, if they're a friend of a friend, it doesn't matter. Everyone who walks in here is a potential member. And right now, when they walk in, what kind of experience are they having? That's what we need to think about. They are guests. Everyone who walks in that door is a guest in your collective home. It's like having them walk into your own personal residence. You all own it collectively. So it's just something to think about, and it's something that I think we need to keep in consideration as we move forward. So at this time, I'd like to thank you for your time. Thank you so much. And I am going to just say, there's a lot of differences in opinions and concepts, and they're all important and relevant. But those will need to be directed to Ian, and I personally will be taking my direction from Ian. So, you know, I just want to really thank you for your time and your considerations. Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, what is your rough estimate of cost per room?
Right now, we are working on that, and that is going to be dictated to me by Ian. We don't have that situated right at this time.
Well, this has been debated a lot, as you know, as we work out how much money we want to spend on the entire lodge and everything else. Finance committee did a lot of work on that in the very beginning. We put together some tentative numbers. Rick Pender was very helpful in providing some quotes in some areas of what we're looking to do. So there's been a lot of people involved. The brief that Michelle was given for this showroom is $10,000. We're looking at about the cost to get to this sort of level is going to run about $10,000 per room, which is, for anybody that knows construction or the hotel business, is extraordinarily low. Yes. It really is. The reason why we are using someone like Michelle is she understands the relationship that we're building here and what we want to accomplish here. Michelle will work with us to source local product, even product on our own land here, and repurposed materials that we know we can access at a decent price that will keep us within that budget. We have done, obviously value engineering still to be done on this concept, but based on some rough numbers that we've put together, we feel comfortable that this room can come in under that $10,000 mark. All right. The next stage for us is we're going to ask Michelle to do a mock-up of this room in 108. Our goal is to try and have it done by Trout Derby weekend, provided we can get the work, the contracted work needed done in that time, so that we can then actually have something that a larger audience, because there'll be a lot of members up that weekend, can actually walk in, feel, touch, smell, and everything else. It's a lofty goal, because we're only talking, what, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, something like that. But this is a girl that can do it for us. And this is why we chose Michelle, or one of the reasons why we chose Michelle. So.
On our open topics, this was brought up that she was coming in and that they thought that the members were going to be more involved. But I know from being here a number of times that that's one of the goals of the club is the guest rooms, first and foremost, to get people up here utilizing that space. And the question being further that when it starts coming down to the more common areas, that then the membership would be involved a little more in their opinion?
That's a very good comment. You know, again, please understand, this isn't my decisions. This is all being worked through membership and through committees, up through the board, through me. There has been a lot of back and forth on this. We've been talking about this for over a year now. And you know, each step we have to get budget approval for everything that we want to do. It's a complicated process. And you're going to have 900 different opinions or thoughts or ideas. But at some point, we've got to get the consensus right and move forward. Otherwise, we're never going to get anything done. As far as your comment about the common space, for want of a better term right now, while all of this is going on, a lot of Michelle's work, in addition, will be looking at space utilization, which we've talked about before. As I talk to members, and a very diverse group of members, most of you are very set in your thoughts on the public space and how it should be used, and it's based on what you know and what you're comfortable with. What I'm challenging Michelle is, are we making the best use of our space? Or should it be configured? And again, I'm not driving this bus in any particular direction, but we have got a lot of big open spaces here that are underutilized or overutilized. And the design can be made to make them more flexible, more usable, more friendly, more comfortable, all that terminology. Everyone talks about the lobby as the best space, and that's got to be the prime member area because of the view of the lake. I get that. But that's also our largest space to be able to do special events or conferences or banquets or Christmas parties or weddings or whatever. If we don't create another space of that size in the near future, are we going to do we want to, as a club, turn down the potential revenue that sort of size space can generate for us? Again, I don't want answers today, but these are all of the questions that we are considering at committee level and at board level. These aren't, any decision we're making is just not, it's not done on a whim. There's a lot of thinking and thought going behind it. We won't always be right, I'll be upfront with that. There will be mistakes made down the road. But we need the opinions of as many people as possible. Those that want to be more involved, I encourage you to work with the committees. And channel everything through the channels that are designed within the club to make the communication process work and the decision-making process work. Michelle will report directly to me. I will get my direction from the board. And then I will get the information fed into me from the committees that I will share with the board, and we'll go from there. Does that make sense? Joe, yes.
Prior board had commissioned a lodge renewal committee, and we paid, I think, close to $30,000 for a lot of structural work, some renderings, and different alternatives to the lodge. Is this committee that you're speaking of utilizing any of that material?
All of that material has been shared with every committee that's been involved in the process, and also with Michelle. There is some, what we're trying to establish with the architects right now is if there's mechanical drawings that we can get access to cut down on costs on the mechanicals. But as far as the architectural and design elements and suggested space utilization, that's all been shared, yes.
So part of that was reconfiguration of the lodge from 52 rooms, I believe, down to 26, 28. If this is $10,000 for a standard room, is that, are we talking for 26 rooms or 52 rooms?
The current thinking is to grow the membership right now. We've got to increase the amount of usable rooms that we have, or not increase, but maintain the amount of usable bedrooms that we have, because we're not in the middle of a building boom. There is very little real estate available within the club property. So if we end up opening up the membership and allowing us to sell club lots to grow our membership, there will be a need for an increase in usage of the hotel rooms. So right now, our projections are based on converting all the rooms as they are. We're also looking at adding bathrooms to the rooms that do not have bathrooms. That's part of the phase program that we have, and it's all within the finances committee's consideration that we can afford to do based on the money that's been put in reserve.
So that would be adding bathroom facilities to the rooms that have currently just sinks in them, and configuring those rooms in such a way to accommodate that.
Correct. It may end up with the loss of maybe one room in the middle to create two bathrooms. I don't know the exact answer to that yet. That will probably be phase 2 of our plan. But yes, essentially, if we to be able to sell these rooms at a rate that is competitive with the outside market and give the amenities and the feel that you were seeing today, we've got to have the bathroom in there. you know, there will always be the argument, well, you know, we come up and hunt every year and 5 of my buddies and we love that room where we can get all, you know, 10 of us in there and just the thing is fine for us. That's 2 nights a year. I've got 360 other nights I want to try and fill that room. And that's what I've got to look at. Because I've got to protect the asset of the club and I've got to protect your dues as much as I can.
In terms of space utilization, and that lobby space, which we keep configuring from restaurant to lobby to restaurant to lobby to bridge to darts, whatever. One of the alternatives in the lodge renewal was this build, which is fairly inexpensive construction, a large box on this northwest corner of the lodge that would then be a meeting room, activities center, maybe a gym or a workout room, all of that stuff, or convert this to a workout room. But relatively inexpensive to build, and yet would give us the revenue generating. When I was on the committee, Sue and I, well, Sue was on it too, but we were both highly in favor of something, building something like that that would generate revenue.
Yes, that is still on the table. That is under consideration as well. Although, like you're suggesting, the building itself is a relatively inexpensive option, is to equip it the way that you would need to equip it, particularly by putting a kitchen in and so on and so forth. That's when your price starts to creep up. I mean,
I think the kitchen was $75,000 or something like that for a kitchen.
that's a low price in my mind, but it's not impossible, don't get me wrong. But yes, that is still on the table, absolutely. And again, that's, like I was saying, a big part of Michelle's work with us will be really drilling down on the space utilization of our existing spaces. And then the decision can then be made, can we make it work, or do we want to look at investing in additional structures, which obviously will deplete what we have available to renovate what we have. But it's all still on the table. None of that's been dismissed at this point.
And one last question.
Yeah, we gotta,
Do we
ladies
have
and
somebody
gentlemen, we do have to
fill
get
that
gas.
gas in the front doors?
That's being addressed, yes.
I would just like to suggest one thing, is when you're talking about branding, and using the club logo and minimizing it in the guest rooms, I was saying maybe sandstone coasters with our logo or towels, things that would be available to those guests or members at a cost in the gift shop.
Yep.
Would be something.
I agree.
Yes.
Like even their cups at the sinks or anything like that.
Sure.
If they had our logo on it, people
I like
could
that.
purchase them.
I like that a lot.
Okay.
Good presentation, guys.
Thank you.